Good morning, everybody, or whatever time it is in the cosmos, wherever you are. So we're going on with Ma'amar Heichaltzu, which I actually got some questions in the email wanting to know, because I had said yesterday, oh, we're in chapter 24. And so someone wrote me an email, chapter 24 and what? So this is called Ma'amar Heichaltzu, which is an essay written by the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, and it deals with the mitzvah of Ahavat Yisrael, loving another person, and the obstacles that prevent us from doing that. And the basic obstacle here is really basic. And I mean that not so much in the sense of simple, because it ain't simple, but based in the sense of unbelievably foundational. And that is that our inability to understand how we are actually nothing. We ain't nothing but a hound dog. We even ain't a hound dog. We're nothing. Bitul. That the only ultimate existence is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. The problem is when we think we're a yesh, to use the Hebrew term, we're a something, that every time someone walks in the room, we feel that there's less oxygen for us. We feel threatened and competed by, with, whatever the preposition there is, every single person. Oh my God, you see less oxygen. Less oxygen. There we go. We got the proof. Good morning. So, so the only way to truly be able to get along with people and have Ahavat Yisrael is to feel a very profound lack of bitul, of self-negation, abnegation. That doesn't mean neurotically. Like I was joking about being ain't nothing but a hound dog, right? It doesn't mean I'm a loser, I'm a loser, I'm a loser. I'm a nothing, I'm a nothing. It means in a very profound sense. By the way, I just want to point out the incredible psychological empowerment of this. You see, a neurotic loser, right? Someone has to go to Dr. Koff for therapy. So so that person is disempowered, right? Because of their negative sense of self-worth. They can't accomplish anything in life, and they're always afraid to do anything because it'll just be another nail in their kind of psychic coffin. But if you actually think of yourself as, in terms of bitul, as an ayin instead of a yesh, as a nothing instead of a something, not nothing, again, in the sense of I ain't nothing but a hound dog, but in the sense of ego-less. So that's incredibly empowering. Why? Because I'm not risking anything when I attempt to do something, right? Like there's no ego investment, right? Like there's something needs to be done. Like especially you see this, it's an incredible attribute of people who are spiritual entrepreneurs. I use that term. And I'll, for instance, rabbis who engage in outreach in an incredible way, Chabad rabbis, as an example, many of them, where, they'll go to a place where, like, it's a desert. I'm sorry for getting a little, I'm sorry for getting a little, I generally speaking don't like to talk about anything after the 16th century, just to play it safe. But let's just get real for a second. Can you imagine someone saying, you wake up in the morning and you get a telegram from headquarters and says, go to Provo. Is that a town in Utah?
Yes.
I just made that up. I don't know why. It just came to my mind.
I think the morning temple.
Yeah. So you're going to go to Provo, Utah. You're going to open up, Beit Chabad, Chabad House of Provo. I don't know if they have such a thing. I'm not sure there are any Jews. It doesn't seem to stop Chabad from going there. But so imagine you're going to go to Provo, Utah. You're going to make Aliyah to Provo, Utah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And, whatever, there are 15 Jewish families. I'm completely making this up. So now you're going to basically go door to door looking for mezuzahs. You're going to look in the phone book for Jewish names. You're going to make a Purim celebration, a Hanukkah celebration. Yeah. The spouse too. It's like a team, and we're talking about, now I just want to contrast this for a second with like normal rabbis. So let's say Sacramento is not Provo, Utah. Okay. We're a few steps ahead of that. So let's say, okay, we need to have a rabbi in Sacramento, like a kind of a mainstream rabbi. Okay, let's get some resumes. We'll like do an inspection here. Get a selection committee. We're going to hire a rabbi. Okay. So, oh, this guy looks kind of good on paper. Hello, Rabbi Silverstein. Making this up. Yeah. Rabbi Silverstein, we got your resume concerning the position for our synagogue here. And, we'd like to talk to you a little bit. Rabbi Silverstein says, how many kosher pizza shops are there in Sacramento?
It's like 0.
Well, how about the Jewish education for children in Sacramento? Well, there's a community day school, but no Orthodox teachers or anything like that. Okay. Let's see here. How many, on and on and on. Yeah. Then the Rabbi Silverstein. So like, if he actually is like kind of like a little bit of a rising star, let's say, young guy, but like rising star. He went through the system, he was a madrich in NCSY and kind of, and maybe he had an assistant rabbi-ship somewhere in New York City, which is the only place Jews really live, right in their minds. On the other side of the river is to the west. There's nothing. So, Rabbi Silverman says, you know what? I don't think my wife could live in a place where there's no pizza shops and there's no chinuch, no education for our children. And so, like, I'm kind of out of here. But I wish you guys luck. By the way, what's the salary? Okay, bye. So, and then the contrast of like, you go to a like literal desert, like I don't mean just metaphorically literal desert, and you just knock on doors and take on incredible risks and no financial backing. You're just going to kind of go and just kind of create something from nothing. To be able to put yourself in a position like that requires incredible trust and lack of ego, because there's going to be incredible failures, right? Most things will not succeed. You'll try this, you'll try that. And so after the first 2 failures, most people say, I think I'm going to go someplace a little safer, right? So that's the amazing thing about not having ego investment. That is actually incredibly empowering, because you're willing to risk failure. It's not going to devastate you, because your self-esteem is not at stake. It's not dependent. You can do what needs to be done. Hashem wants you to try to help other people. And if it succeeds, it succeeds. If not, it not. And you can do your best. And it's not a reflection on, you don't look in the mirror and say, I am such a failure. You're also not afraid to ask for money. This is also, there could be a whole psychology, and there probably is, of fundraising. Fundraising is unbelievable. That's why I can't stand it, because unfortunately I'm not enough of a nothing, right? You call up somebody, hello, Mr. Cohen, this is Rabbi Silverstein on the phone, and we're having Purim meal coming up, and we need people to underwrite it. I wonder if I could count on you for $1,000. Click, and you walk away and you commit Harry Carey. You go kill yourself, because like, oh my God, like my whole self-esteem, my whole sense of self-worth just got destroyed because someone said no to me, right? So what kind of sort of internal psychological emotional structure does it take for someone to say no? And you say, okay, I'll go call another person. That's unbelievable. So that's something kind of like a spiritual entrepreneur, to be able to, and by the way, this exists also in financial entrepreneurship. And I've seen this many times. As a matter of fact, I told the story about this incredible experience I had with Rabbi Riskin. I'm not going to tell the whole story now for the listeners out there, but about how his unbelievable ability to absorb no's. Because it's just when you're on that level, a lot of people say no, because you're always asking, right? And I do you remember this? I told you the story about in Florida, in Boca Raton, in this whole story? Well, no one here remembers it. Okay, do you mind if I just tell you a story?
No.
This is an unbelievable story. Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
This is Torah. What I'm telling you right now is Torah.
Yeah.
I went to Boca Raton some years back. I was working for Rabbi Riskin, and in Boca Raton, in the Kollel there, they needed a scholar in residence. Mm-hmm. They asked me to come. Rabbi Riskin agreed, because he felt that it would be good for the institution to get more visibility for his institutions. Okay, open up some doors. So I went there, and part of it was to kind of cultivate relationships with people who could ultimately become financial supporters of Rabbi Riskin's institutions. but I'm not like too good at that. Like, you know, like figure out who the people who might become financial supporters and like, so the truth, so whatever. And by the end of the time that I was there for about 6 weeks. And I can't say I really had cultivated all the movers and shakers, just like gave shiurim and that was it. I finally had, whatever, maybe there was like one person that perhaps was a potential supporter. In any case, the condition for Rabbi Riskin letting me go there, like in terms of Boca Raton, like why should Rabbi Riskin take one of his educators and let him leave Israel and go to Boca Raton for not for his own institution, was that we were allowed to do a parlor meeting subsequent to my being there with Rabbi Riskin being the speaker, and that would be good for his institutions. I'm not giving away any military secrets here. So the problem is that by the time we were done with my 6 weeks being there, if anybody, you know, Southern Florida, so there's this phenomenon where the snowbirds come, right? So people who live in cold climes, right? New York, Chicago, you know, Montreal, Toronto, whatever, they come down for the winter and then they go back. So the problem is if you don't do any fundraising, like in the middle of the winter, by the time you get towards the end of the winter, the snowbirds have gone back to where they came from. And once they go back where they came from, you have much less of a base for fundraising. So the time I was done, so I said, okay, let's do our parlor meeting. And then we were informed by the local community, is that really a good time because the snowbirds are already going. So we said, okay, we'll do it in next year, right? When the snowbirds come back. So that means there was like a lag time. So because I'd already gone back to Israel and now it's next fall. So when the snowbirds are starting to come back, right? And so now we want to make a parlor meeting, right? So I start calling up people. Hi, this is Rabbi Zeff. Remember me? What's your name again? Zeff, Z-E-F-F. Z as in zebra, E as in elephant, F-F as in Frank. Oh, Rabbi, you know, we've got a lot of other obligations and we wish you well. Click. Yeah. So I'm about to commit Harry because I'm not one of those people that just, so, you know, I'm making phone calls like, and it's not working out. Maybe if it would have happened fresh when I was there, when people remembered who I was, and it was more. So finally there was one person who was, had means, a very interesting person. So I said, okay, I'll call him up. But he's a little too interesting to deal with easily. He was one of these characters, right? Call him up. Hey, you know, can you help me out? Make a parlor meeting with Rabbi Riskin. Rabbi Riskin happens to be famous, right? Everybody's heard of Rabbi Riskin. So he said, who's Rabbi Riskin? But he wasn't faking it. He never heard of him. So I said, oh, well, he's a really famous rabbi. What an honor. You get to like do a parlor meeting. And, you know, I know you just built a new home. You could host it in your home. It'd be like a Hanukkah Bayit, dedicate your new home. Oh. I don't know, Rabbi. Well, finally he agreed to do it. I sent him you know, who Rabbi Riskin, sent him a couple articles from the newspaper, whatever. Okay. Oh. The event, for some reason, like I wasn't going to plan the actual event. We have an office in New York. Don't plan it with him. It just wasn't happening. Like because the office had to communicate with this guy in Florida and right at the planet, send out invitations and invitation list, right? It wasn't happening. Like 2 weeks before the event, nothing had happened. No invitations had gone out and there was no communication. And I'm like my whole credibility is on the line. Like I was sent to Southern Florida to open up some doors and the doors are not opening up. And this is going to be a complete failure. And I'm a loser. As someone said, like L on my forehead, loser. Right. Okay. So I called up the guy and I said, what's going on? Like, you know, we got to make this event happen. And it's what an honor to have this famous rabbi in your new home. So he said, you know what, Rabbi, I never heard of him in the first place. I don't know if I want to have like the first event in my home, someone I never heard of. Oh, so I actually kind of got borderline angry. Inside, I was very angry, but it's hard for me to like show it. I just don't show it. Like right now, you don't know I'm angry. Excuse me. Sorry.
He just wanted to
Dr. Koff, can I have an appointment later today with you? So in any case, so he said, you know what? This is a true story. I could not make up this story. Yeah, I wouldn't make up a story with you, at least not usually. So he said, you know what? I'm a part owner of a kosher restaurant in this town in Florida. It's a really fancy restaurant. It's like the nicest restaurant. And so I'll open it up in the afternoon when business is slow anyway. I'll serve hors d'oeuvres, not in my house, right? I'll be in the restaurant. I'll serve hors d'oeuvres, but I'll invite everybody here, the famous rabbi. I'll serve hors d'oeuvres for free. People will come in and he'll give a speech and a pitch. But this time I'm not going to argue. It's like, I'll take what I can get. Fine. So this is going to be on a Sunday morning. So that Shabbat, right before the Sunday, both Rabbi Riskin and I are in New York in different synagogues as scholars residents. Saturday night, it starts to snow. And it becomes an unbelievable snowstorm. So how are we going to get to Florida the next day? Well, Rabbi Riskin happens to have special connections. He just dials 1-800-G-D. And he was able to get a flight into, what's that beach town right above Boca Raton? Something Beach. Something Beach. It's like a very affluent town.
Palm Beach.
I think Palm Beach. I think it's called Palm Beach. Yeah. So he got a flight into Palm Beach. Of course, I don't have that number, 1-800-G-D. Some of it doesn't work for me. So I was able to get ultimately a flight into Miami. The problem is Miami is kind of far from Boca Raton. I rented a car. Rabbi Riskin's already there for a few hours ahead of me. And I'm driving from Miami, in a rental car. And like, I'm really panicked. I want to get there, even though they don't really need me for logistical purposes. Rabbi Riskin has someone who sort of arranges the logistics. So, but I'm really panicked and my credibility's on the line. Yeah, I drive to this shopping center where this restaurant is. It's Sunday, right? The lot is empty. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it must be that such a huge crowd showed up that they had to move the venue to one of the local shuls because so many people came they couldn't fit in the restaurant. I'm thinking, please, God, please let that be the answer. So, but I feel, okay, but I got to check anyway. Park the car, walk in the restaurant. There are 4 people in the restaurant and Rabbi Riskin talking. And he's talking because the way Rabbi Riskin does it, there might have been 4,000 people there. And he's standing up giving this fantastic talk that only he knows how to do. He's amazing, he's funny. Right? Funny, entertaining, Torah, inspiring, everything. Okay, 4 people, but as if there were 4,000 people. So I sit down and I'm just like, loser, 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 loser. I am a loser. I am a loser. I cannot believe this. Well, the coup de grace was some guy in jeans and t-shirt comes into the restaurant. He's standing right at the door. He's just standing there and he's like looking at Rabbi Riskin talking and the 4 people in the audience in the restaurant. And he's just standing there looking kind of puzzled. And Rabbi Riskin breaks off his speech and says, "Can I help you?" And the guy says, "Can I have a Diet Coke, please?" And at this point, I just said, "Pass the knife, please." That's it. I'm over. And Rabbi Riskin finished his speech, and I went over to him. I said, "I am so sorry. I tried." And he said to me, "Don't worry about it. It's nothing. These things happen. You just keep going." So we had the hors d'oeuvres after the speech. Rabbi Riskin sits next to the host. There's like 4 people there, including the host. He sits, they talk, I'm not listening, but they have a talk. And Rabbi Riskin, I found out later, asked him for a big check. Okay, to do for outreach work in Israel. Okay. To hire a rabbi to do outreach work in Israel in a non-religious town and to do educational outreach work. And the guy said, I have to think about it. So we go back to the hotel. Rabbi Riskin swims every day for health. He goes swimming. I go to the room looking around for things to commit suicide with. An hour later, I get a call from Rabbi Riskin's assistant saying the host just called up Rabbi Riskin and said he'd like to give Rabbi Riskin a tour of his new home. Oh. I'm not invited. I stay in the hotel. Oh, gosh. Rabbi Riskin goes for a tour of the host's home. He gets just the host and Rabbi Riskin, I think his assistant. And the guy says, Rabbi Riskin, he takes out a checkbook, writes him a check for the full amount, gives him the check. Wow. So now there are 2 lessons to learn from this. Number 1, Rabbi Riskin, he didn't deflate him at all what happened. If it would have ended in total failure, he just would have moved on. Just his ego wasn't at stake, just move on. The amazing thing is, of course, he actually got a lot of money out of it from this one person, the host. But even if he didn't, It wouldn't have mattered because he knew he was doing God's work. He was doing the right thing. And if it would have been a failure, in quotes, you just move on, right? That only happens if you're an ayin, a nothing, and not a yesh. So this was a little story to demonstrate the power of being a nothing. And we'll continue with this next week, Bezrat
Okay, thank you
Hashem.
so much.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.